Hey everybody, RHINO here, the world's strongest pro bodybuilder. No, this isn't one of those worthless altitude masks. This is a CPAP mask, and I'm going to be telling you how it can save your life. But first, a word from my sponsor, that's me, and my cooler, which holds a gallon of ice water and 2 shaker bottles all together inside one insulated container. I've often said that my success was less about what I did inside the gym and more about what I did outside the gym. One of the most important things I did outside the gym was to always pay careful attention to getting enough sleep and getting high quality sleep. Sleep is just as important as nutrition for recovery, and maybe even more so, as it affects how your body uses calories and how your body uses energy to perform work. Now, a study performed by Dr. Penniv out of the University of Chicago showed that dieters lost the same amount of weight whether they got more than 8 hours of sleep or less than 6 hours of sleep. But here's the catch. When the dieters slept 8 hours a night for 14 days, they lost 3 pounds of fat and 3 pounds of muscle. But when they slept less than 6 hours a night, they lost 1 pound of fat and 5 pounds of muscle. Those who got less sleep also produced higher levels of ghrelin, which is a hormone that triggers hunger and reduces energy expenditure. So not only does your recovery suffer, but you release catabolic hormones and you burn more muscle than fat in a sleep-deprived state. Now, women are the worst about this. And let's face it, women are way more disciplined than men, and they will train more and sacrifice more to compete than men. I've seen so many times over the years where women preparing for competition will wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to do cardio before work, and their trainer wears it as a badge of honor to brag about how hard these women train. The problem is, they're hurting themselves, not helping. If you lose sleep to train, you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels. You're way better off sleeping the necessary 8 hours or more, and your body will pay you back twice over. Even more frustrating are the athletes who take 19 different pills, powders, and potions, but can't figure out how to sleep 8 hours a night. Like I said on Mark Bell's podcast last year, if you're taking creatine, but only sleeping 5 hours a night, you're a fucking idiot. And the more you train, and the harder you train, the more you have to sleep. Now, LeBron James is said to get up to 12 hours of sleep every night during the season. Now, it's been a running joke amongst my friends since as far back as college that my chariot turns into a pumpkin at 10 p.m. In the mid-1990s, as my weight started to climb from 220 to 230, 240, 260, 270 and above, I started having more and more trouble getting a good night's sleep. It started with snoring and progressed into full-blown sleep apnea, where I would hold my breath while I was sleeping and wake myself up gasping for air. Now, this is a very common problem amongst obese people and large athletes such as bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen, and football linemen. It's associated with increased neck girth, causing crowding of the air passage to the lungs. I was waking up exhausted every morning, and I was lethargic and I had brain fog. It felt like someone had stuffed marshmallows in my ears. I would almost fall asleep driving to work in the morning, and I had a hard time staying awake throughout the day. When I tried to nap, I'd wake up even more tired because I'd just be holding my breath. Eventually, I'd had enough, and I knew damn well what the problem was. Well, actually, the problem was I was too damn big. But fixing that wasn't an option at the time. I needed a CPAP, so I visited a doctor, got a sleep study, and they prescribed me a CPAP. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. Within 2 nights of using the CPAP, it was like a light switch was turned on in a dark room. Now, you know from listening to my rants that I'm not one to wave my arms and get all excited about most things in the health and fitness industry. But the CPAP literally changed my life at the time. I went from being a zombie to being alive again. My productivity went through the roof. My energy levels greatly improved. I was recovering faster from workouts, and I started getting stronger again. Now, even though the CPAP is 99% effective for sleep apnea, I didn't want to always use the machine, so I couldn't help but get suckered into every supposed quick fix for sleep apnea on the market. I tried the mouthpieces and the sleep pillows. I even tried the surgery where they laser off part of your uvula, claiming it's blocking the area. That was absolutely worthless and the most painful recovery I've ever experienced. I could only drink fluids for 10 days, and every time I did, it was like pouring salt on an open wound. And I blame myself for being a dumbass, but some shit that quack doctors do for money is nothing short of criminal. Now at this point, you're probably shaking your head and asking yourself, why didn't he just lose 50 pounds? And you'd be absolutely right. The vast majority of cases, apnea can be cured by losing weight. And that's exactly what gradually happened when I stopped competing in 1997, and I began losing weight. Over the next 2 years, as I was working running some businesses, I stopped training altogether, and my weight got back down to 220 pounds. I no longer snored, didn't have apnea, and I didn't need the CPAP anymore. Now this remained the case for nearly 10 years until 2006. I'd been training hard again, and I was in great condition at about 230 pounds. When, on a whim, 5 weeks out from the Emerald Cup in Seattle, I decided to step on stage again. I prepped for those 5 weeks, jumped on stage, and I won the super heavyweight class. That show rekindled an old flame I set my sights on to get an IFBB Pro card. Now, over the next 2 years, as I got my weight back up north of 270 pounds, I also found my old nemesis again, sleep apnea. Now, at that time, since I was familiar with the problem, I didn't wait very long. As soon as my sleep suffered, I just got on the internet and I ordered a CPAP, and I was back in business. Same experience as before. Woke up feeling like $1 million. Now, of course, more recently, the medical equipment lobby and sleep doctors have managed to make it illegal to buy a CPAP without paying them 10 times what one of these things went for on the internet. So you're stuck going the traditional route, which I think is a shame, because it decreases the likelihood that someone with apnea will take the time or spend the money necessary to get a CPAP, particularly if they're uninsured. And necessary is the right word. Sleep apnea is associated with increased blood pressure, an increase in all-cause mortality, and it suppresses the immune system. Not only can it kill you, but it can absolutely destroy your quality of life. I know, I've been there, and for me, it was physically painful to be sleep deprived. And that's why I can't stress enough how important it is to get a sleep study. Whether you're a candidate for a CPAP or not, getting a good night's sleep is essential for optimizing performance. From all the research I've done over the years, along with my personal experience, here's some helpful tips I have for improving your sleep quality. You've probably heard of many of these, but are you actually employing them? Set a regular sleep schedule that allows for at least 8 hours of sleep a night. I call it paying yourself first. Don't sacrifice sleep. It will cost you both short-term and long-term. Circadian rhythms are a powerful influence on sleep. Most of us have experienced this with jet lag, or if you stayed up too late and tried to sleep in. Your body will be tired because it has its own internal clock. It's influenced by these circadian rhythms. Without getting too detailed, your body uses daylight to set these circadian rhythms in the hypothalamus. And this clock triggers the release of melatonin in the pineal gland as nighttime approaches to aid in sleep. Supplementing melatonin has been shown to have very little effect on the quality of a night's sleep, but it does have a measurable effect on normalizing circadian rhythms, which is why it's effective for jet lag. The takeaway from this is that your body best responds to normal sleep cycles, not just the amount of sleep. Now, unfortunately, this means that if you work nights and sleep days, you probably never optimize sleep. Cycles of light and darkness are very important, and if you want a better night's sleep, you have to pay attention to and optimize your circadian clock. And there's many ways to do this, starting when you wake up in the morning. Getting outside upon waking and getting sunlight can make a huge difference in how well you sleep that night. So don't spend your first hour upon waking sitting in a dark room with the blinds closed. I usually go outside and take a walk for 20 minutes in the morning, or try and get sunlight by eating breakfast on the patio or sitting in front of an open window. Now, in areas where it's dark, there's been excellent results received with light therapy, which can improve performance and have a great effect on depression and seasonal affective disorder. Now, going to bed and waking up at the same time also helps condition the body for a better night's sleep. Sleep scientists believe that every hour you get to sleep before midnight is like 2 extra hours of sleep. Dimming the lights and turning off televisions, computers, and iPhones as bedtime nears helps the hypothalamus signal the body to sleep. If you lay in bed staring at a bright iPhone at night, you're wrecking your circadian clock and adversely affecting your sleep hormones. Now you also want your room to be as dark as possible. I install blackout blinds so the sun doesn't wake me up at 5 a.m. in the morning in the summer in Las Vegas. The temperature is also important. If the room is too warm, it'll impact the quality of sleep. Noise is another major factor. When I was competing, I used to wear headphones or use earplugs so I wouldn't get disturbed while sleeping. I've often recommended this to competitive athletes I've trained who may have children. And speaking of children, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old that love to sleep with mom and dad, which absolutely wrecks a good night's sleep. Because kids can't sleep without flopping around every 5 minutes like a Tasmanian devil and smacking you in the face with their hand or giving you a tomahawk heel drop to your stomach. This affects your ability to progress through the stages of REM sleep and stay there long enough to benefit from the all-important growth hormone release that occurs, which is extremely valuable for recovery. Even now that I'm retired, the kids have to sleep in their own beds on Wednesday and Saturday nights because Thursdays and Sundays are leg days. You should see the looks I get from the wives of the athletes who I've recommended sleeping in the other room because they have a competition coming up and their babies are waking them up at night. Let's just say I'm not on their Christmas card list. It's also recommended to try not to set an alarm and just wake up naturally, because when you're woken up out of a deep REM sleep, you can remain groggy for hours. This also happens when napping. Napping can be a huge benefit. I use naps regularly when I was competing, and it's important not to nap for more than 20 minutes so you don't enter into REM sleep and wake up groggy. Now, some people try using sleep aids or prescription drugs, but these interfere with the body's natural sleep mechanics and typically cause drowsiness and other side effects. Stimulants such as caffeine may help you wake up in the morning or get you through a lunchtime slump, but these higher highs also give you lower lows, and they can cause withdrawal symptoms such as headaches and fatigue, and they may keep you up later, further affecting your circadian rhythms. High doses of performance-enhancing drugs, growth hormone, insulin, IGF-1 will also make you tired. Particularly orals and anything that affects the liver enzymes, the AST and ALT, will make you very tired. Now, this is another very good reason to get a blood test. Many factors can contribute to poor sleep and fatigue, such as hemoglobin A1C, liver enzymes, vitamin D3 levels, C-reactive protein, hemoglobin levels, iron levels, thyroid, to name a few. Now, I've also found that not eating carbs for breakfast helps keep me more alert and allows me to avoid a carb crash. Breads and pastas tend to weigh heavier on me than rice or potatoes, and staying well hydrated with adequate sodium intake helps me keep more alert and improves my sense of well-being. Of course, now that I'm retired and I've dropped 40 pounds, my apnea has improved significantly and will undoubtedly go away as I whittle myself back down to under 230 pounds. None of this is hard to do, and it's not rocket science. It just takes a little discipline, and the payoff can be enormous. For the life of me, I can't understand when people with sleep apnea won't get a sleep study and use a CPAP machine, claiming it's uncomfortable or looks stupid. You know what's uncomfortable? A heart attack. You know what looks stupid? Your casket. But that's none of my business. Take an extra scoop of creatine tomorrow. I'm sure that'll fix the problem. You just go ahead and keep picking up them nickels. I'll keep using the CPAP. Well, that's my rant, and as always, thanks for listening.